Hi friends, Amanda here from Unseen Hands Healing. Sorry it's a little dark today. We got gloomy skies outside. So rather than do a traditional reading, I'm doing something different. There are 3 piles here, and you will have an opportunity to choose a pile and get an interpretation for a specific inquiry that you have. But first, and the real point of this video, is to look at the process of inquiry and what it even means to come to the cards with a question. It's something that I think about a lot, and I've been diving deeper in my own practice with that. So I just want to share with you and let you in on some insights that I have gleaned from that. All right, so first of all, I want to talk about the word divination. So I use that word to describe what I do. A lot of folks do. But I think that it has a lot of connotations around fortune telling and future predictions. What I am doing is not predicting the future. I'm not fortune telling. In the way that I can frame what is happening in this process of pulling cards is that I'm picking up on the energies, the energetic potentials of the present. So rather than telling you your future, what I'm actually doing is picking up on energetic hits of what is potentially true right now in your situation, in the moment that you are in at the time of inquiry. This is part of the reason why you'll hear readers say that readings are timeless, because we aren't predicting the future. If this was predictive, then it would have a timestamp. And while it might say, this is the energy for mid-July, for example, the readings that just went up on the channel, what I'm really saying is these are the potentials that I am picking up on right now in mid-July for what could be going on in your life. This is what is up for review right now in this moment, right? And so if we're talking about bringing up the potential energies of the present, that changes why we're asking the question to begin with. Because if we are asking the question because we want the answer, it implies that there is an answer. And I know this is sort of an infuriating thing to think through, because we all want answers. It's why we come to the cards. It's why we ask questions, because we want answers. But I don't think that answers actually exist in this work. I think it's more about insight. And for me, there's a big difference between seeking answers and seeking insight. Seeking answers implies a linear track of what is going to happen with this situation. Here is the answer. Or what do I need to know about this situation? This is what you need to know. It's a very closed circuit. And the more I dive into this work, the more I realize that the circuit is very open. That membrane is incredibly permeable to lots of other pieces of the puzzle that we may not be aware of. So that's all to say, to start thinking in terms of circles and spirals rather than lines and point A to point B. It's part of what is interesting about that to me as well, is that whenever I ask a question to the cards, seeking an external answer, often I'll find that the cards end up routing me right back to myself. So that's sort of like the spiral that I'm talking about. And if you follow Lindsay Mack's work, you'll hear this a lot. I was a student in her Soul Tarot course, and she talks about the tarot working in a spiral rather than in lines, which I think is really, really valuable, a really valuable framework for this work. So definitely check her stuff out. She's awesome. But that's what it feels like to me sometimes, is like I'll ask an inquiry really seeking an answer, and it'll end up just like flipping it back on me and coming up with reflections for me to see about myself, or even more questions that just lead me back to the root, which is inside of me. And so in that way, so if we're not necessarily seeking answers, and we're not necessarily looking for predictions for the future, I think that this is where empowerment can be one of the goals of divinatory tools like tarot and astrology. Rather than prescriptive, saying this is who you are, this is what is going to happen, I like to think of these tools as more descriptive. Like, here's the energies present right now at this time. Or, in terms of natal charts and astrology, here's the energy that surrounds the moment of your birth and how it may manifest for you physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, all of those things, spiritually, in this lifetime. Keyword, how it may manifest. So it's a tool that offers you basically like maps of potential energies that help you visualize a situation, or visualize the energies that are present within you or within a situation. And all that does is empower you to use your free will however you choose. Okay, so rather than these things being like, well, this is just the way it is because my astrologer said, or this is just the way it is because my tarot reader said. No, my tarot reader or my astrologer offered me images, offered me insights of potential energies for me to then take and decide what I'm going to do with. All right, so these are tools of empowerment that offer you the more information and deeper information with which to make decisions. All of this is just empowering you to use your free will to your greatest ability, to use your free will in a way that connects you back to yourself, so that you're not making choices based on other people. You're not making choices based on external circumstances alone. You are not subject totally to just the whims of fate and your external circumstances. You are making decisions that are aligned with your soul because you are seeking that level of internal insight. Hope you're with me. So now we take all of that background of why we are coming to the cards, and let's look at how we are coming to the cards. So this process of inquiry, this process of coming up with a question, it's very interesting to me. So if we're not seeking answers, like what's going to happen today, what's going to happen at my work situation, then that changes the questions that we pose. So let me walk you through it. A process that I've been doing with myself is questioning the question. So the very act of asking a question changes your mindset, or changes the way that your perspective on a situation that you're looking at. That's the act of questioning. That's why questioning things is so important. Questioning the nature of your reality, questioning the circumstances that you find yourself in, questioning your relationships, questioning yourself. The act of questioning is very powerful, very potent. once you ask that question, then there's this process that I'll borrow a term from biblical or religious studies. I went to Bible college for a moment in time. Hermeneutics. If you've heard of this word, it's essentially taking a text or taking a message that is divine, a message from heaven, and interpreting it in the context in which it was written, or interpreting it, taking the language and really like digging deep, taking it apart in order to put it back together. It's the process of interpretation. And so rather than just saving that for interpreting the cards, I'm saying let's do some hermeneutics on the question itself. Also, side note on the word hermeneutics, really interesting. The root of that is Hermes. Hermes meaning Mercury, the god of Mercury, the god of communication, that messenger god who acts as the go-between between the divine, heaven, spirit, and mortals. So Mercury is that channel. Hermes is that channel, that go-between, that piece within you that has access to the unseen and can bring the knowledge that is unseen down into yourself, down into form, into realization, into consciousness. Hermes is also the god that ushers you, your soul, into the underworld. So again, this is a god of ambiguity. This is a god of transitional and transactional spaces between spirit and earth, between earth and the underworld. This is a god that helps you to transition, helps you to translate, helps you to transform, helps you to communicate, all right, all of those things. And so recognizing that Hermes or Mercury is a god of ambiguity, of great ambiguity, and understanding the power of ambiguity, bringing that mindset to the act of bringing a question to the tarot. I want you to think about, and also I have to just mention that this video is being recorded during a Mercury retrograde, so I think it's really interesting that the energies present right now are asking you to reflect, revise, review, and here we are talking about that very process of taking a question that you have and saying, well, hold on. Is there another way I can look at this? Is this really the question I want to ask? Let me revise, let me review, let me make sure before I just charge forward with this. All right, so that question to me, that hermeneutics of that question looks like, first of all, why am I asking this question? Like, where is this coming from within me? What is the root of this question for me? If I have a question about my love life, why do I feel the need to ask that question? Period. What am I hoping to know? What am I hoping to learn through asking that question? What is the answer that I'm hoping for? Okay, getting really clear on and honest with yourself. What am I hoping to hear from the cards? What am I hoping for? What am I afraid the cards are going to say? All of that goes into you really looking at the question that you're asking and why you are asking it. Once you get to the root of where that question comes from for you, and I keep like gesturing to my body, that could even be physically, like if you want to get really imaginative with this, where does that question live in your body? Is it like a churning in your gut? Is it like a flutter in your heart? Is it like a gnawing at the back of your neck? Where is it coming from? What is it connected to? Really digging deeper with that inquiry process, so that maybe through that digging deeper, through that hermeneutics, you end up coming back to your original question and saying, yeah, this is actually the question I want to ask, and then you go for it. Or maybe through that inquiry process, through looking at where that question is coming from to begin with, you actually realize, oh, what I'm actually asking is this. What I actually need to know is this. Okay, I wanted to know what's going on with this person, but what that is actually directing me back to is me. What I'm actually asking about is why I feel the need to connect with this person in that way, or, you know, whatever your circumstances are. And so through that, we can just get really clear on the deeper question at play here. Okay, so all of that process, it's like a journal entry before you even ask the question. I know, but it's a really important and valuable process if you want to dive into that with me. All right, so part of that process also, and again, this is like before we've even laid any cards. Once you get your question clear, you do your hermeneutics and you get your question clear. You and Mercury are, you and Hermes are good. Then you take your question and you say, okay, before I even ask this, let me acknowledge I'm hoping for this answer. Or my instincts say the answer, or my instincts say the cards are going to say something about this. So like, let your instincts speak before the cards speak. And that's really important, in my opinion, because I think it's really good to first just like air all of that out and get really, really clear on that. Helps you like pull your own bias out and look at it so that it's not so intrinsic to the fabric of you, but rather it is something that you can like work with if you choose. The power of choice, again, empowerment, tarot for empowerment. But it also, hold on, lost my train of thought. Yes. So it allows you to get your bias out, but it also allows you to get in touch with your own instincts before you interpret the cards. What are your own instincts saying about this situation? I'm getting really, really clear on that. My instincts on this is that it's helping me to see this, this, and this. That it's asking me to look at or question this, this, and this. That I have fears around this, or that I really want this to happen. Okay? So get clear on your instinctual knowing before you see what the cards are going to say, okay? And then step 2, that was all step 1, I know. Step 2, release all of what you think the cards are going to say. And I've narrowed that down to a simple phrase, which is relieve yourself of expectation. Let's just breathe that in for a second. Doesn't that sound nice? I'm a Virgo, so that sounds really nice to me. I'm like, ooh, yeah, I need to do that. Relieve yourself of expectation. Relieve yourself of the burden of expecting the cards to tell you X, Y, and Z. Oh, I know the cards are going to say this, or oh God, I really hope the cards don't say this, but I think they're going to. Or, oh, the cards better tell me what I need to hear. All of that. Relieve yourself of the burden of expectation and do your best to like literally back your energy up. Clear the slate. Take some deep breaths, like however long it takes for you to really clear all of that out. And I think it's important that the first step in that was really acknowledgement of all of your own expectations and instincts for this, in order to then kind of like take them and put them over here for a second so that you can come to the cards as clear as possible and with a spirit of openness. Suddenly, when you relieve yourself of expectation, it invites an opportunity for curiosity, to approach the cards with a spirit of playfulness, to approach the cards with a spirit of adventure, saying, I don't know what the cards are going to say. I don't know what's going to be offered to me here, but I'm open to find out. So it's really just wipes the slate clean, invites curiosity, invites playfulness, invites an open heart. Those are the two big steps for me. I feel like getting into the interpretation of the cards is a whole other lesson. But here, as we are focusing on the process of inquiry, that's the process for me. Do the hermeneutics on your question itself. Do the digger deeping onto why you're asking what you're asking, and if what you're asking is really what you need to be asking here, or what you most deeply want to inquire about. And then step 2, and part of step 1 is also just acknowledging all of your expectations and what you think the cards are going to say and what your instincts tell you. Getting in touch with your own instincts about the situation. And then step 2, throw it all away for a second. Relieve yourself of the burden of expectation. And just be really, really open and curious and open to receive what the cards have to offer you. So that is the inquiry process I want to pose to you. And now I want to give you the opportunity to actually try that out. So you've been wondering about these 3 piles this whole time, I'm sure. It's a pick a pile situation. I want you to go through this process with me, if you would. I want you to grab something to write with, if writing helps you with that process. And first of all, just think about the area of your life that immediately comes up for you for what you have the question about. The first thing that comes up. If it's love life, great, don't judge yourself. If it's career, whatever, okay? So whatever is the burning, questioning part inside of you. And then ask a couple of questions. Maybe write down a few questions that come up for you when you think about that, or write the big question that's really looming, and then do the process of hermeneutics. Why am I asking this question? Is this the question I really want to be asking? Where's this question rooted? Where does this question live in my body? Where is this coming from in me? What links does this question have to my past? What am I desiring for the future? Okay? Do all that work for yourself. Write it all out. Journal it if you want. Make lists. Whatever works for you. Once you've done that process of hermeneutics and you've really gotten clear on what question you're actually asking, come back to the cards and see which pile, after you get clear on your question, see which pile is speaking to you. See which pile kind of calls to you and says, I have insight for you. Okay? Once you choose that pile, then you're going to click through a timestamp to my interpretation of that pile. All right? So it allows you the process of doing the hermeneutics on that inquiry, and then I'll give you a chance in the video before the interpretation to relieve yourself of that burden of expectation. And then see if your experience of receiving a reading is different. That's the whole point here. So if this is jiving with you and you're really interested in this, follow me over onto my Patreon to access the video of the interpretations for these piles, okay? And I didn't do that to fake you out. I did that because I want to talk about Patreon for a second. The reason, I offer a lot of free content here on YouTube, a lot. I really love doing it. It is such a heart passion of mine, and it feels really good. I also created a community for people who are investing in this work in a deeper way for themselves. And that's Patreon. That's where Patreon comes in. So again, the link is in the description box below, but it's Unseen Hands Healing on Patreon, okay? So that community is a group of folks that have decided to commit a monthly monetary value, ranging anywhere from the lowest is $11.11. And if you decide to commit to that cost, which is less than lunch in most cities, okay? you decide to commit to that cost a month, you get certain things depending on what tier you decide to commit to, what level you decide to commit at. You might get a personal reading from me, you might get access to the extended videos, etc., etc. So it's really an opportunity for you to choose your own adventure in terms of how you want to use the work that I'm offering to dive deeper into yourself in a more regular way. I also want to say that you can always cancel your patronage at any time. It's not something that you're like locked into for a year. It's a monthly charge, and you can cancel it any time. But if my work has been resonating with you, and this whole process of like diving into into inquiry and tarot is really interesting to you, I urge you to go over to my Patreon, see what I have going on there, see if that is something that is resonating with you and feels right. And if it is, no matter what level you decide to commit to, you will have access to this pick a pile video, and you can go through this process, step 1, step 2 of inquiry and releasing expectations, to see then what changes in your experience of receiving a reading. Plus, I've got lots of other resources on there. I go very in depth with blog posts about significant astrological transits. I'm not an astrologer, but I dabble very heavily, and I do my research from astrologers that I trust. So, and I always use tarot to really bring the insight that my instincts are telling me about certain transits. So a lot of that kind of information is over there. I'll do private readings that are patron only, like this one. Just lots of other fun stuff going on over on Patreon. So please do check it out, see if it's something that resonates with you. But if not, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope that you can bring the insight that you gained from thinking about tarot in terms of insight versus answers, thinking about the actual process of bringing an inquiry to the cards and releasing expectations as you interpret the cards in a totally different way. And you know, I would love if you try this out in your personal practice, whether you go onto Patreon or not. If you could just leave me a comment and let me know how this is resonating for you. Let me know if it changes your experience at all. I want to connect. I want to chat with y'all. So for those of you who are subscribers to my channel, thank you so much for your support. Thanks for always checking in with your sun, moon, rising signs every month for your interpretations. Thanks for commenting and connecting with me on this YouTube platform. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. And make sure that if you are enjoying these videos, you click like. It just helps to play the algorithm a bit in this YouTube climate and get the videos out to folks that need to view them, need to hear these messages. So thanks again for joining me. I hope you gained some insight here, and I'll talk to you soon.